According to all accounts, Arsenal had a strong chance of acquiring Ukrainian superstar Mihailo Mudryk during the January transfer window. The 22-year-old forward, who is currently in first place in the Premier League, could play a crucial role in the battle for the championship. Instead, Mudryk joined Chelsea, a nearby rival of Arsenal. According to Mudryk's former club, Shakhtar Donetsk, Chelsea swooped in to sign him for a transfer fee of $75 million with an additional $35 million expected as a bonus payment. Chelsea is now managed by American businessman Todd Boehly. The signing of Mudryk and the $132 million deal for Enzo Fernandez on the final day of the transfer window, which set a British record, were two examples of how busy Chelsea's January transfer window has been. According to Transfermarkt, the club has spent over $350 million during this period, and 8 players have joined, including a large number of attackers. In May, the UK government gave its approval for the $5 billion sale of Chelsea to an ownership group headed by Boehly. Roman Abramovich, a Russian oligarch who once owned Chelsea, put the team up for sale in early March in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, claiming that doing so was in the best interest of the club. As part of its efforts to isolate Russian President Vladimir Putin after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the UK government added Abramovich to its list of sanctioned individuals in May. After leading Chelsea to its second Champions League championship in 2020-21, Thomas Tuchel was fired by Boehly and Graham Potter was brought in to replace him. In addition to Chelsea, Boehly has invested in a number of sports teams, including Los Angeles Dodgers, Los Angeles Lakers, and Los Angeles Sparks of the WNBA. Boehly is thought to have spent more than $600 million on players since joining Chelsea. January has hardly passed without Chelsea being associated with a number of players. According to Dan Dormer of the London is Blue podcast, who has been covering the event, I think at least the past month has been pretty exciting as someone who has been covering it. It has also been a little taxing because it seems like we wake up to a new link or story every day. Chelsea fans were seen yearning for the past and singing, "We've got Super Tommy Tuchel," during their team's 4-0 loss to Manchester City in the FA Cup in early January. Players have arrived, but Chelsea's results have been inconsistent, for the time being. However, Boehly has consistently splurged on new talent. "We're all in for every minute of every game, 100%. In a statement issued after completing the purchase of Chelsea, Boehly stated, "Our vision as owners is clear, we want to make the fans proud. Our strategy is to invest in the club for the long term and build on Chelsea's remarkable history of success, along with our commitment to developing the youth team and acquiring the best talent." According to Transfermarkt, Boehly and Chelsea spent an estimated $302.08 million on new signings during his first full transfer window as the club's interim sporting director last summer. When CNN offered Chelsea the chance to comment on the club's recent spending on new players, Chelsea declined. The club never discloses how much it spends on player transfers. Boehly has made a special effort to make the transition to life under Potter as easy as possible by enlisting the aid of many of the coaching and backroom staff members from the former Brighton manager. In the meantime, in December, Christopher Vivell, a native of Germany and RB Leipzig, joined Chelsea as technical director. Boehly stated on the club's website when Vivell was appointed, he, Boehly, will provide important support to Graham and the ownership group and play a vital part in advancing our overall vision for the club. Dormer asserts that since Michael Emenalo left the team in 2017, Chelsea has never successfully replaced him. If you stop to consider it, having multiple managers is similar to having multiple children who each wanted a different set of Legos and are working on a single project as a group. Because of this, sometimes not all the pieces come together, said Dormer. Given that clubs don't want to lose valuable assets and may have the upper hand in negotiations, January is frequently seen as the worst month to make player acquisitions. The Blues haven't let that stop them, though. Along with Mudryk, permanent contracts were also signed by Benoit Badiashile, Noni Madueke, Malo Gusto, André Santos, David Datro Fofana, and Fernandes, while Portuguese superstar João Felix joined on loan from Atletico Madrid. The CES Football Observatory states that up until the acquisition of Fernandes, Chelsea had spent more than $600 million on 15 players. With the purchase of Fernandes, the club's most recent transfer expenditure now exceeds $600 million. Although that is a significant expenditure, Chelsea has a longer-term plan in mind when making such signings. 11 of the players they paid transfer fees to sign are 22 years old or younger. According to Dormer, there was a clear need to replenish the squad as older players' contracts were about to expire and some appeared to be past their prime. Veteran midfielder Jorginho was traded to table-topping Arsenal on the final day of the January transfer window. As Dormer put it, it's almost like you went for an eye exam and the optometrist asked, "Better one or better two?" and helped you focus on what the 2020 vision is for your glasses. This is something where trying to identify the best players has been an evolutionary process. Dormer thinks Chelsea's team now possesses the necessary depth and strength. Chelsea's right-hand side dramatically suffers in terms of overall performance if Reece James is injured, he said. As a result, having similar levels of player raises the floor on the individual behind your chosen starter, and then also to have the ability to rotate to keep the entire team healthy. Particularly given that teams play 40, 50, or 60 games, plus international games, in a season and have little downtime in between. But Chelsea might run into issues as a result of this talent inflow. 4 of Mudryk, Felix, Badiashile, Madueke, Fofana, and Fernandes will be unable to represent Chelsea in the Champions League because a club is only permitted to add 3 new players to its playing squad for the knockout stages. This year, major transfer spending has almost reached pre-pandemic levels, with Chelsea leading the pack. In 2022, clubs spent a total of $6.15 billion, according to FIFA's report on the global transfer market. Although up 33.5% from $4.86 billion in 2021, this amount is still less than the $7.35 billion and $6.94 billion levels reached in 2019 and 2018, respectively. The financial rules governing football have come under scrutiny after Chelsea alone spent over $600 million on new players. By using amortization, Chelsea is able to comply with both the Premier League's and UEFA's financial fair play rules, granting players longer contracts in order to spread the cost of a transfer over several years. Since Mudryk's contract with the Blues is for 8.5 years, the club will pay him nearly $110 million in transfer fees, or about $13 million annually. According to the BBC, Fernandes also committed to Stamford Bridge for 8.5 years. Financial football expert Kieran Maguire finds Chelsea's sudden spending on transfers strange given the usual caution of Clearlake Capital, the investment fund involved in the takeover. Explained how amortization can have short-term benefits but long-term negative effects. What would happen if those players turned out to be duds? Maguire told CNN Sport, calling it a very high-risk strategy. You are then obligated to pay the players' salaries for the subsequent 6, 7, or 8 years. Chelsea typically ranks among the top 3, if not top 4, Premier League clubs in terms of wage commitments. It will be difficult to find a new club that is willing to take the player off of Chelsea's hands and pay them a salary that makes them happy. In an effort to curtail the practice of excessive amortization, UEFA announced in January that it would be changing its financial fair play regulations and limiting the amount of time that a transfer fee can be spread over a 5-year period. However, the modification won't be retroactive and won't take effect until the summer of 2023, so it won't have an impact on Chelsea's current spending binge. In recent years, Tammy Abraham, Billy Gilmore, Fikayo Tomori, and Mark Key have all brought in sizable fees, which is another benefit of Chelsea's successful youth academy to the club's financial standing. Does Chelsea's massive influx of players, though, have any effect on the team's promising future? According to former Stoke City manager Tony Pulis, it makes no sense to have an academy system where the kids aren't getting the opportunity to play at that level. Concerns are also being raised by the widening wealth gap between elite clubs and the struggling organizations. Continuing its calls for the implementation of a transfer levy for Premier League clubs, Fair Game, an organization committed to the same principles and determined to improve the governance of our national game for the wider interests of football, released a statement. It could raise nearly $200 million, which, according to the report, could help provide a vital lifeline to clubs below the top flight that continue to struggle with the fallout from the pandemic and the day-to-day challenges of the cost of living crisis. Despite claiming that the Premier League is more competitive than other European leagues, Maguire claims that there is an arms race in terms of wages as a result of aggressive trading. Chelsea and Liverpool finished 10th versus clash for 9th place last month. The big clubs have the money, and football is a talent-driven industry, according to Maguire. I think it's really just a case of trying to get a degree of competitive balance so that you don't end up as we see in La Liga and some of the other European leagues where it is effectively a procession, and that's not good. It is because of these correct decisions that the Premier League is successful.